Thank you for coming on into live and sharing your essence with me in this eternal moment of which we all share an inextricable and inexorable part. Thank you for doing your part, for coming on in each and every day. We'll do the same without wasting a single second of your time. Bada bing, bada boom, we go into the charts. BTC getting a little bit of a order block push to the upside after liquidating some longs. We were there for that pivot. We had no idea it would go as high as it did to recover the wick up here at the 0.65 of this diagonal pitch fan we've had price in since January. But that's what the point is, to pick up the pivots and see how far it goes. And let's go into high block to see where it's going from here. So we were looking at these induced $306 million in short liquidity here at 36.44, and we said there was also a pool up here at 36.61 and their partner in crime up at 37.32.8, and it went and took all of those short liquidity in its entirety.
Fatality.
And yes, what is this? Oh, we jumped the gun. This is high block capital. And what is high block? Well, people lock that liquidity into the charts to get burnt to a crisp by the market maker for not using a stop loss, and we get to see where those crispy characters are. So yeah, that's what we just saw, these crispy characters getting burnt to a crisp as they didn't pay themselves into that drop to the downside. And let's go see where it wants to go from here by shifting our attention to the higher time frame liquidity pools. So the 7-day. First we have to switch this over to max liquidity and see what's up. So they came back. We were talking about on the 7-day there was more liquidity up here in that 37.9 region, and they just sweeped it all up, and there still is some more up in that 38.550 region if they choose to clean it up in completely. Right now they have taken back the wick in its entirety. Let's go back to see how accurate that wick recovery was. If you see an unreclaimed wick, be careful of that, because they like to come back to those wicks, and it looks like it came back exactly to the wick. So that was an interesting little recovery there. So if we expand our vision to the higher time frame pools, we can see there is some percolation sub 34k. Are these protected positions of the whales? Are they looking to offload at a higher region? They are trying to percolate some more liquidity for that surge up perhaps, but if they put in a higher high, sweep the highs, there is not much more than the 39k region at this time. There is a gap between 39, basically 38.8 and 40,800. So there's $1,000 gap of nothingness that they would have to come down and induce perhaps. Also, there is not really much on the terms of the longs on the way up. People were not expecting the move, and when they least expect it, that's when they surge it. So they pay the least amount of people. So double digit pools down below in the 34k, sub 34k region. So we're still not out of the woods in terms of possibility of coming lower. We are putting in higher lows and higher highs, so we're still on that ascending channel trend to the upside. If we look at this and just do 2 clicks with the regression tool, you can see that that is the case. Even if we do it like this. So this is the ascending channel path we are taking above that 0.65 region. So let's go ahead and just first recap where we were from yesterday's stream. One interesting thing to note is if you use a retrace tool, we were talking about the 3 hits to the high here, 1, 2, and 3, and we had that short setup for you over here on Monday. And we were talking about coming down into this region. The interesting thing was we came down into that negative 2.7 region of this impulse here and started to shift out. We had these pools looking at, we left them on the table from 37.117, and we were talking about possibly rejecting at the fair value gap region here. Little did we know we came right above that. And what was this arrow? Well, this was the cross up event of the baselines. And what are those baselines? Well, the link is in the description for more, so let's go ahead and throw that on real quick. The baselines are your first sign of reversal. If you go to momentummaster.info, scroll down to features, look at the baselines. They're one of the first things to cross up, insinuating a reversal. And we had that actually on the 15-minute. We were looking at it and we were talking about the cascade to the hourly, and you had that 6 time frames oversold, which you would get an alert to your phone. I don't generally play against the 6 time frames. Those 6 time frames are a doozy, and that is your stochastic array goodness here. Never before seen formula which monitors 7 time frames of information over 32 different indicator values, more than a brain can handle on its own. So it gives you that alert to your phone saying, what do you want to do? You got a level 6 event here, and sure enough, it came back above that cloud idea, held the cloud. So even while we were not on stream, this would have had you had hello telling you that the cloud is holding. You broke the super trend, boom, you hit that pool we were talking about, and we're still on the upwards path. And you could switch to the hourly time frame, and the hourly time frame baselines were still holding and wide apart here, so there was no reason to necessarily close the trade. And so boom, we've been seeing this upside path. Now we're up at the top of this channel here, and we're starting to reject the thin boy baseline, but this is a extremely bullish scenario. Is this the tippity top of the top, or are we coming higher? Let's go ahead and start it fresh and go back through the time frames and complete our journey. 3 month also draw to the downside at some point. 6 month also in the immediate range, you're even Steven, but more draw. 32 billion down at 33.6 and double digits at that 34k region. The 2-year doesn't justify the move higher. This looks like a manipulation to me in order to offload positions into the new year, so we could see some sort of extended M double top draw back event, because the ultimate draw is to this pool down here at 24k, just like we had that draw up here to this 32k. Because of all the pools percolating above, you have some pools percolating below now. So there is a point in time where the piper will need to be paid and the chickens will come home to roost. So we will see what that is about as we shift our attention to the momentum. All right, so you had that 6 time frames oversold into the 2.7 here, the negative 2.7 value. Started to come back above, create that shallow double bottom, baselines crossed up, and boom, we were gone from there. All right, so let's make our descent through the time frames. Before we do that, let's say what's up to the audience. How's everyone doing out there? I tried to get some folks to come over from the Bitcoin live stream. They're all like flies light to the light right now. Yo, thanks, thank you. All right, so if we look at the daily time frame, this impulse has been negated and it recovered down here. So we got that 786 rejection all the way down to the negative 2.7 value, so we can start fresh as can be. And we can also use this as a daily impulse retrace idea here for the trend based fibs. If we take this impulse and this retrace, it's not the biggest rise up here, but coming up to that 1 region perhaps. If you just use this daily impulse retrace, this could be the end vestige of that last hurrah region. So looking at a possible, let's see if this coincides with something to the left. It kind of does. There is some resistance levels here on the daily time frame that we're trying to eat back towards. And yeah, let's go ahead and make our descent. So daily time frame, stochastic RSI starting to turn the KD lines up in the oversold region, but could be a fake out. The money flow beneath the RSI, money flow starting to flow back up to the RSI. Let's go see when that 3-day closes in 2 days. We're coming back above that adaptive. We're playing around with the adaptive, more bullish than bearish in terms of playing above and below that adaptive. Last time in March we just got an immediate 2 candle rejection on the adaptive. Here we're actually above it twice, and so this could be a rally for support. We're talking about coming above that 36,432 region as a sign of strength, and we did. So here we go. Let's go back through the daily time frame here. Daily time frame, Williams looking to double top. You had that previous alarm value come as we stalled that 3 hits to the high that had you at hello. Now that's in the past. Let's go forward and see what the 22 offers. So the 22 starting to play out. This was one of those broken time frame discoveries I found. Why the 22? Well, it creates 2 candles in one day, a 22-hour candle and a 2-hour candle, which is like putting your radio dial between some frequencies to bring a signal out of the noise. And so your hidden fingerprints of the market makers cannot be hidden as easily in these oversold and overbought regions. So when you see these reset, it can give you that insinuation of continuation idea. Here it looks like we got that holding of the cloud here on the 22 in the super trend as well, and bounced out from there. Something to note. So as we stand here on the 22, it still could drift up into some regions here, up at that 38,276, trying to put in a higher high, perhaps. If we go to, now we are on Thursday, November 16th, midweek reversal Thursday. The Thursday reversal could be this continuation and a reversal down. Let's go ahead and take a look. The money flow beneath the RSI here on the 12-hour suggests you could continue on that 12-hour subtle support with the money flow beneath the RSI here. That disparity could continue to the upside as you attempt to burst up into these regions. Not really any players up there except probably some sell orders on the order book on the DOM or whatever. Wouldn't really say the shorts are in the liquidation levels. There's not a huge pool up there to liquidate. If we go to the 6-hour, starting to drift off of the cloud here. They dropped below it, broke the super trend, came back above for that sleeper undertaker play, and came back above the cloud, reclaimed it, and was gone from there. Had a green vector candle to recover that wick in its entirety, exactly to the T. Coming to the 4-hour. 4-hour overbought, money flow beneath the RSI. The key term on a lot of these time frames, the 4, the 6, the 12, the 22, all the money flow is beneath the RSI, suggesting this could burst up a little bit higher based off the strength that it's attempting to show here. Looking at the hourly time frame overbought, RSI money flow overbought at even Steven levels. The 0 level of the leading MACD, when it enters this domain of coming up into this region, you could get a possible bullish continuation. Hold on one second. Yeah, that was my wife, sorry about that. So the hourly time frame overbought, but could get pinned by the subtle support of the lower time frames. If we look at the 15, coming to the 15 minute is resetting here. Here's where we start to get into the nitty-gritty. Okay, so the 15-minute reset here in a manner, MACD coming down. You had that leading MACD cross here and starting to taper as the cross down event of the baseline is slowly giving that subtle impression of suppression here. The baseline is pointing to that 2 o'clock angle still, so I'm not interested in shorting with that thickness. You want to ideally see this angle shift to a 3 o'clock angle and create something like that where it's curving. And then from that point, you would basically be seeing it break down beneath that if it were true, and then your B idea would be the more probable play if you were looking to short. But you don't want to aim at tops exactly, because you never know when that top is actually in. If it lines up with the math and you're confident in it, you're more than welcome to do what you please, but it's the more higher probability play is what I'm interested in. So if we look at the hourly, this is one of those fair value gaps that they will come back to at some point, but obviously they're not coming back to it immediately. There's another one. If we go to a lower time frame here, this fair value gap was on a 5-minute recovered in a sense here. If we go to here, okay, so that is basically it. If we were going to turn this on, yep, it's there. That's one possibility at some point, definitely on the journey. So one thing we can do is, if we take this bullish trend based fib level, we take the impulse from here and the retrace to here, this is going to give you some math for where it could possibly go. So we're going to remove that first projection just to keep it a little bit fresh here and keep it within the impulse that actually happened yesterday. So this Asia, London, New York retrace continuation idea had this bullishness inbuilt to that with the impulse retrace idea here, and it could continue up to this 38.538 539 region on the trend based fib. Trying to make a prediction here is going to be tough to say. One thing we can do here is take the impulse from this point, holding that 34,688,236 was one of the bullish signals. You're now coming above that 786. We've already basically recovered that impulse, so I'm going to be using this previous one and looking at this idea. That one is a little bit too giving back everything, and this looks to be holding the 786, 706 rejection trapdoor to the downside, so this makes more sense in terms of the math. So possibly coming up to that 38,941 region as a fatigue point for where the math wants to go. Let's go ahead and look at Litecoin for my man and see if you have anything you want to look at. So we're looking at Litecoin coming up and possibly rejecting in this golden pocket region. We're looking at this goal. We were down here on Wednesday, so we basically handed that B move to the upside on a silver platter for 6.66%. So is it going to reverse from here? Let's go ahead and reassess and take a look. It very well could, but it has now come into the golden pocket, so we are going to switch this to a deep retrace, as the golden pocket has been disrespected, which is good though, because we were looking at the upside play. Came into that liquidity as well. So let's go ahead and look at the Litecoin liquidity zone here, shall we? LTC coming into fruition. Let's see. So Litecoin, we were talking about these pools, this $6 million short at 75.00613 looking more likely than not to be hit. There is a higher band of short liquidity up above on Litecoin at that $75 region, that price mark. So coming up to the 786 seems more likely than not. You have that 6 million short up here, so let's just mark it off for you. 75,006, so just basically 75 even. So we'll just leave it there. There's a $6 million short guy who is likely underwater. Let's find out when they opened it. They opened it into this V-shaped here. They were in profit, and then if they didn't pay themselves, they are now underwater. So they could be aiming at that $6 million character at $75, as we are still imbalanced to the tune of 25 million in short liquidity for Litecoin. If we switch Litecoin on the heat map, I think you can look at higher time frames now, which is cool on a lot of these alts. Litecoin definitely has more liquidity than Aave, which I was looking at yesterday, and it looks like you have some more up in the top of the range here. Let's switch this to max liquidity to see what that actual value is. And up here at that $77 region, you have like 124 million, 83 million. You have a bunch of millions of dollars up in this 77.62 region to sweep those highs. So wanting to come up and sweep those highs for that liquidity that was lost to father time on the 1 minute chart. And this is why you use multiple charts for high block, because the 1 minute only has 7 days of information. But ultimately there is some more up in that $77 price range, 77.43. There's a large amount of liquidity that it looks like it's eyeing to grab. And this could be across the board as people look to catch an easy short swing and they get swung out of their position. So this looks like it could continue all the way up to that 77 region. Originally, and this came down to the equilibrium too. This is kind of one of the interesting points. We came down to that equilibrium we were talking about and bounced right off the equilibrium at 68.04. So that was showing that people wanted to buy it at that discount range instantly, and they did it once and twice. So that's kind of interesting to note for Litecoin. And we banged our head up against that, what's it called, that adaptive moving average, and we could be coming for that third tap and going higher. Let's go ahead and take a look at what type of bullish scenario. First, we can go back to the old impulse here. So we could take this impulse retrace idea. We held that 236 level, and now we could be coming up into this $78 range, 78.80. This is the original projection we had. If you remember, we were rejecting off the 786, and then the 706 trapdoor opened, and we were talking about that 706 rejection. I call it the trapdoor. Institutional rejection levels if there's too many over leveraged people. And if we go to the hourly. Okay, so getting into the nitty gritty here, the hourly in the 4 hour for Litecoin is overbought. So getting a possible tapering and or sideways consolidation to reset some of these time frames. You are getting that curvature, and you could basically retrace into the pocket region of this, but at this point, if you're already in the trade, you could just hold your horses and see how she rides up at this point. The hourly time frame getting pinned by the 4 hour, and it looks like the 6 is the one to basically be that subtle support, just like Bitcoin. The 6, the 12, the 22 most likely on your side. Yes, the 12 hour just getting started. 22 also likely just getting started. So you're starting to get this little push up to the upside here. So coming into this candle over here is the next draw on liquidity at 75.03. possibly sweeping the highs and coming up to that $78 region. 77 definitely has some price point interest up in here, so I would not be surprised if we sweep and put in a higher high before reversing sharply. And that is about it for Litecoin. Let's go ahead and look at how crypto on the whole is doing with the crypto bubbles. Looks like everyone is getting a little bit of a boost here on the day. Winner, Render, Kaz, Avax, Rune, Kuji. I don't know what Kuji is. I know it's Kujira is whale, and there's a whale icon. That's the kanji for whale, so that must be Kujira. I don't know what that is, but let's look it up. What is Kuji? Kuji token. A blockchain for real yield. A decentralized ecosystem for protocols, builders, and Web3 users. I like the ocean effect, but it's basically just a video they have on loop. I know how the pages work, but okay. Orca, Fin, roadmap. Okay, it's just your standard like thing. What is the use case of this exactly? I'll read it off the stream. It's Web3. There's just a lot of like fake stuff these days, so I'm not really interested in doing it on stream, wasting your time. So yeah, let's go see what's up in here. This reminds me of March of 2033 at Illuminated, March 7, 2033 BTC. I'm in a trade. Nice. I haven't sold much as we got in March of 2023. March 7th. Yeah, the March time we had that like kind of fake out. I remember April Fools was like literally an April Fool's joke, because everything reset and was poised to go higher, and then we had that Luna liquidation thereafter. The entire month of April was just straight downside. So if we go back to March, we had a rocket ship on Bitcoin too, so we went up March 13th, all the way to that March 28th region. We had this little double top, and a lot of oscillators reset here. I remember because I was on a field trip with my daughter for her school, and I was in the hotel room as it happened. I remember it just dumping, and I was like, oh, there's some manipulation here. So we were looking at all of these oscillators reset. Everything was kind of in a reset position, and it just, a lot of the YouTubers were poising for higher, like reversals here, and then it just dumped. And there was a lot of and then it turned out Gemini had opened up a huge short to liquidate, and this was when they suppressed the price here. And then this was around the time that the whole Luna liquidation event occurred. And then that's why the rocket did not take off. Always when the rockets don't take off, there's some market manipulation. But when there's a stable environment, these rockets generally play out with a what's the word I'm looking for? With a fervor. So yeah, let's go back to that real quick. I haven't sold as much as we got in. Such an early position, BTC and all. Nice. The 3-day still had bearish order blocks at 44 clay. Has, okay. Yeah, at this point we're just drifting into limit order positions and not liquidation levels. It's kind of strange because the liquidity has all but dried up for BTC. If there's anything you want me to look at, one thing I was telling you about the inverse asset. So as NASDAQ was taking a little bit of a take profit tumble yesterday, Bitcoin was seeing a surge. So you had this downwards path for the NASDAQ while you had this upwards path for BTC. So I've been seeing this sector swap between the indices and Bitcoin in terms of when the indices are going up. When NASDAQ is going up, Bitcoin's going down. When NASDAQ's going down, Bitcoin's going up. You can back test that for yourself, but it's been, because I trade both, I've been noticing like, whoa, Nasdaq's ripping. Whoa, Bitcoin's dumping. What's that about? So as Nasdaq was going down, Bitcoin was going up. So the profit taking on Nasdaq was going into the bottom. So they're just targeting sectors. They're swapping out take profits on one into the low position of another, and then they're using that to ride up on the rotation to the upside, by the looks of it. DXY also had this drop. Shout out to Dingo, because he had that Japan Yen USD rocket ship pointed out to you back here, and there was a rocket ship on the yen, so the yen getting a little bit of a triple bottom effect. They gave it all back for the most part, but it looks like they're coming back to a 786 region. Deep retrace. Yeah, it came down to the 786. Could be bouncing up for some more if the dollar gets knocked down and gives the yen a little bit more of a boost here. Would not be surprised if the yen comes down to the 786 again, maybe goes a little bit deeper and then comes back up to here. And then the dollar, DXY also could be a C continuation wave at this point. Could come a little bit lower. Let's go ahead and take a look. There is some fair value gap goodness to recover up in here. Technically we are starting to do that now, but have not yet to reclaim that gap just yet. If we go down to the 5 minute, we can see and isolate it down some more. And this is how you do it. Looking at the wicks, coming to here, doing this thing, and then boom. But once again, if you're new to how to do that liquidity void stuff, you can use this free indicator called fractal break imbalance fair value gap liquidity void. You turn that on, should give you the sauce on there. I don't know why it's not loading. I guess it only goes back a little bit. So either way, you'd have to go on the replay mode, but this would be one of them. This obviously is a big gap too. If you're still bearish, then you will basically, they call it this weird term. I don't know why they call it that. They made these new terms for the 2022 course. They call it the consequent encroachment or whatever, the CE, the 50% level. Why don't you just call it equilibrium like you always did? But if it rejects the equilibrium of this fair value gap, then it's still bearish in nature. If it goes above it, then it's going to go higher, kind of thing. So if it starts closing candles above this, it's negated. If it's below it, it's going lower. Not quite sure all the terminology, but all these concepts were around before the guru trying to garner, what's the word, they're trying to garner attention. These concepts were from the 90s with Larry Williams, Turtle Soup, and all that stuff is not a new concept. Larry Williams had it back in the 90s. It's in books that you can buy and read. It's nice that somebody consolidates them, but just don't label them your own, you know what I mean? Anyway, so coming back to the hourly, you're starting to see this double top idea, rejection of that, and coming down to the 15 minute. Let's go ahead and see. Once again, that 15 minute Williams suppression could take this down to the cloud. If you hold this cloud area and sweep a little bit of these, do you have the actual liquidity down here to justify it? Let's go back to BTC's liquidity zone really quick. BTC, here we go. Yeah, there's definitely a large amount of liquidity down here. Let's just go and see how much exactly do we have to retrace into. So they V-shaped into some of these longs. They wicked-whacked, used that as a order block to continue higher. As it stands right now, you still have this large amount $160 million down at 36,599, basically 36.6. So we'll mark that off for you. 36.6 is down here. Boom. So there is a large amount of liquidity down in this candle here. This vector candle could be some target on the hourly and the 4-hour time frame. If we come down into that at some point, I would not be surprised if we do something like come up and then come back down to here. You're not extremely overbought, so you could get a little bit more of a push up into that London thing to ascertain a higher high. Technically, we already have put in a slight higher high, but coming back and drifting into some of those shorts a little bit further. Let's go find out exactly where those shorts get liquidated at. $292 million, 25x shorts at 38,122. Let's go see what 38,122, where is that? 38,122 is not that higher up here. It's only about there. So that is one little pool up in this region. And if we look at the entire region here, there's a $202 million pool at 38,556. So we'll mark that off. 38,556. 38,556. Right around here. 222 million. So you do have some pools up in here, some Fibonacci levels up at that 38, basically 39k region. So it is midweek reversal Thursday. Tomorrow is run for profit Friday, so be careful on that midweek reversal point. During London, are they going to send it up to send it back down again and not let the shorts in this time, because they liquidated them all? So let's go see if you have anything to add or ask for while you have me. I'm tempted to swap some LTC for Aave. Let's go see what Aave is up to then. Aave. So we were talking about Aave coming down in this channel here. It hit the bottom of the channel, gave you the 6 time frames oversold. We were talking about the liquidity being lower than we liked, so I wasn't as keen on the idea personally, but that's because I've been burnt by alts in the past with lower liquidity, so I stay away from them. But once again, coming back to those 6 time frames oversold, not to be denied. When you have those 6 time frames oversold on the stochastic array, that is something to take a look at. And you can also get those as dynamic alerts to your phone. You don't need me, you just can use this formula, which is beyond me and beyond any human, in my humble opinion. So if you are interested in that, we are having a Black Friday sale. The link is, or the button that when we're doing that next Friday is going to be for a week's time for the yearly and lifetime subscriptions. If you're on the fence ever, the Black Friday is the one time to think about joining the Momentum Master community, because they'll give you those little rocket ships down here leading into the moment at October 18th, and then you can position nicely for that swing play of the rocket ship all the way to the upside. And they're undeniable. You can ask other people in the community, they are enjoying it. 76% gains from the rocket ship that appeared on the 4-hour here. And yeah, so if we're coming to the top of the channel, I'm not kind of one of those breakout trader guys, so I would wait for a better position. Still, I'm sticking to possibly just not canceling your Litecoin, but keeping some ammunition on the sidelines. There could be some manipulation inbound. Let's go see what the news is. This is one thing you should always look at, which I look at for NASDAQ, which is what news is inbound. We have a red folder, unemployment claims, later tonight. So look for some manipulation on that front. Red folders do bring catalyzing agents to change in the marketplace. You don't really have, you have some yellow folders and an orange one for Euro. Basically the unemployment claims only today. So you could see some manipulation coming into the marketplace for that last play for the week. A lot of big players are going to look to liquidate their positions going into the holidays, so you could look for slower price range bound motion as the liquidity dries up, so be careful with that. Do you have anything else you would love me to look at? Let's go see what is the chat up to. All right, well, if there's nothing else, then we will bid you adieu. Basically look for a put in of a higher high, liquidation of some of these shorts, some more, finish the job, put in that higher high. They already swept the BPR here, and yeah, basically come down into this gap at some point. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it, folks. So thank you for coming on into the live and sharing your essence with me in this eternal moment of which we all share an inextricable and inexorable part. Thank you for doing your part, for coming on in each and every day, and we'll do the same, bringing the fire, the accuracy, the precision, all that fun stuff, and we'll catch you on the flip.